lighting is off. So sorry. Hold on. I can't get it together. This is going to be a bad live because I can't get my lighting. Hold on 1 second. See if I can make it a little bit better. This is horrible. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. Trying to get it together, honey. Trying to do a little light, but it's like it's not in my best interest. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to be talking about various subjects. I'm going to mention the trial pertaining to young Dolph. I'm also going to mention the shooting that took place in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 2 hours away from my location here in East Tennessee. I'm also going to touch on Master P's daughter who died at the age of 29. I'm going to bring you that commentary. I'm also going to talk about the funerals pertaining to 2 children out of Uvalde, Texas, and information coming out of New York pertaining to knowledge that an ex-federal agent knew that the shooter was going to go to the grocery store in Buffalo, New York. So this is a multifaceted live. Thank you for joining me. God bless all of you. Stay safe. Thank you. No, I'm not praying. But we'll pray for you. How about that? Deadline is the source. Prayers to the Miller family. Tatyana Miller dies. Master P's daughter, whose addiction struggles were documented on Growing Up Hip Hop, was 29. Thank you for joining me. Deadline is the source. Tatyana Miller, the daughter of rapper Master P, who struggles with addiction, were documented on the WE TV reality series Growing Up Hip Hop, has died at the age of 29. The news was announced on Instagram by Master P. Although a cause was not specified, the 52-year-old rapper wrote that mental illness and substance abuse is a real issue that we can't be afraid to talk about. Our family is dealing with an overwhelming grief for the loss of my daughter, Tatyana. Master P wrote, we respectfully request some privacy so that our family can grieve. We appreciate all of the prayers, love, and support. Mental illness and substance abuse is a real issue that we can't be afraid to talk about. With God, we will get through this. Miller's elder brother, Romeo Miller, who appeared with his sister in a memorable episode of Growing Up Hip Hop, in which Master P encouraged a reluctant Tatyana to enter rehab, wrote on Instagram last night, our family is dealing with an overwhelming grief for the loss of my little sister, Tatyana. We respectfully request some privacy so that our family can grieve. We appreciate all of the prayers, love, support. And although this is sad times, I'm forever grateful for the memories I did have with my amazing sister. Love on your loved ones. Life is short. The silver lining, I know she's in a way better place and finally at peace and free. God bless. TMZ has reported that law enforcement sources say paramedics arrived at the home in San Fernando Valley at 2:30 a.m. Saturday and found Tatyana Miller dead at the scene. Okay. I'm going to play you a clip. Excuse me. Whew. When I turn that air on, it just works my sinuses. Excuse me. I'm going to play episode. Hold on 1 second. This is from Growing Up Hip Hop.
Trip opened my mind to see how I would miss you the most because you were always here for me, and I just thought that trip stopped me from wanting to ever be in Hollywood, seen with those celebrity friends. And I feel like I don't need to go to rehab. I feel like I could actually do good without rehab.
I mean, you say that, Tata, but on the serious side, I think we should.
Bad lighting. Sorry about that.
Help just to make sure you stay on track. So let's not say you don't want to go to rehab. I think you should at least try it, because I don't want you to go back to this.
I have friends that have been through this, and it takes 2 years of being completely sober to really be like, you can walk away from this.
Yeah, because even if somebody brings something around you, I don't want you to go back to like, oh, I'm just going to have a little drink. I just want to take a little smoke or something. You got to be around, like to me, I could be around people that's drinking and smoking. and I don't want it. I really hope that Tata is serious about making a change. In my house, I'm a drill sergeant because you need somebody to tame you and to tell you, no, we're going to fix this. By us doing this with my daughter, hopefully we'll send that same message to her mom. Like, you know, if you need to get help, we're here for you.
Deadline is the source. So this young lady has passed away at the age of 29. In this episode of Growing Up Hip Hop, you hear the father speaking to her and the brother Romeo about getting help. And at this time, she did not want help for whatever reason. My question is to the average person who tries drugs or is addicted to narcotics, drugs, alcohol, whatsoever. Why would you want to be on drugs? I asked this question. I asked this question because we're in a modern day, and most people have seen what drugs and alcohol abuse has done to many Americans. So what I'd have to ask a young person, especially, why would you want to engage in using drugs? Older person as well, why? It's just a question. When you've seen what it's done to people in the community, why would you try it? Because I think a lot of people, when they try drugs, especially, we know that most people are offered the drug. I don't think the same person just goes out and says, hey, I want to get high on drugs. Why would you want it? That's my question. When you've seen what it's done to people, why would you think you're that person that could overcome an addiction? Just curious about that. Because I think a lot of people, when they sample drugs, they don't think they're going to be that person that's going to get addicted to the drug. And many people probably never thought that when they tried the drug, that they would become an addict. Because like I said, who wants to willingly go out to become an addict? I don't think anyone strives to be an addict. Maybe down the road, they have become accustomed to getting high, tried to stop. Some have not. I remember talking to someone over a year ago who said they enjoyed getting high. You know, a 60-year-old man, near 60-year-old man, said he enjoyed getting high. And in my mind, I thought, my goodness, you've lived to be 60 by the grace of God. What are you saying? You like getting high. You want to get high. You have no intention of stopping. So this is why I'm asking this question. Okay? Because I've had this conversation with somebody who basically said, I like getting high. I don't plan on stopping. So that's why I'm asking this question. When you see what it's done to other people, the community, relatives, friends, foes, whomever, why would you want to even sample the drug? Let's start there at the beginning. Why sample it? Why try it? Why take it from somebody? When you've seen what it does to people. But as I said, perhaps in that person's mind at that time, well, I'll try it because everybody else is doing it. My friend, whoever, they're offering me the drug, other people doing it, I'll be all right. But as you see, so many people have lost their lives to overdoses here in the U.S. with fentanyl and heroin, pill popping, other drugs, because now they're mixing drugs, which is very lethal to mix a drug with another drug. I just often wonder, why would anyone in this modern day, seeing what drugs have done to our community, done with people in general, why would you want to try it? That's just my question. And it's no disrespect to this young lady or anyone that has used and or died. As I said, I do not know what she's died of. They have not given a confirmation on an autopsy of what she died from, but she was struggling with drugs, and also they mentioned mental illness. So I'm wondering if she also had a mental illness. What was the mental illness? Did it have anything to do with the drugs? If she did, was the drugs a coping mechanism for the mental illness? I do not know, and I'm not here to speculate if either has anything to do with the other. But that's sad information coming out of California. Prayers to the Miller family. We do have an epidemic with drugs, people using drugs, people getting back on drugs. Many people have tried fighting, drug use, and somehow they cannot maintain, sustain without using drugs. It's dangerous to use drugs. I think most of us know this. And anything can become a drug. Okay, anything can become an addiction. But it's sad to see, even in a modern day where people have knowledge of what drugs can do, that they still would try it anyway, knowing the ramifications for getting high, taking other people's prescription medicines. It's very dangerous because you don't know what can happen, even in taking prescription medicine that belongs to somebody else. It's very dangerous to do that. And we know that a lot of people have become addicted to pills from, having accidents. They've been in car wrecks. Maybe they had severe back pain or back injuries. And before you know it, they now become addicted to the said drugs. And it's sad because, as I said, I can't see someone willingly wanting to go out and purposely get high on drugs in the beginning, let's say. But they become dependent on it or like it, and they indulge. And as I said, the conversation I had with someone a year ago was baffling to me. That's why I posed this question. This person adamantly says, I like getting high. I don't have no plan to stop. I have no plans to stop. And I thought that was pathetic for someone to be of that age. You should want to be a role model. You should want to be a life lesson to someone younger or someone your own age. That, hey, I overcame this. I don't have the need to get high. And as you heard Mr. Miller say in this commentary, Master P, that he could be in a room with other people, possibly drinking or smoking, and he doesn't have the desire. And see, that's the thing about drugs, alcohol. Some people can't be in a room with people imbibing and indulging without craving the drug, alcohol. Very true. That's why it's best you don't go around the drug or the alcohol if you are in recovery. It probably wouldn't suit you best. If you're trying to better yourself, your circumstances, it wouldn't make sense to go around people who are indulging in those said activities. Now, you have people who have overcame drugs, alcohol. They can be in a room with people drinking, smoking, whatever it is that they're doing, and it doesn't bother them. They have self-control. They don't have the desire or the cravings to imbibe or indulge in the activity. And kudos to them. Because there's some people who will tell you, I can't be in a room with people drinking. You have people that say that smoke, who try to quit smoking. They can't be in a room with people who smoke cigarettes. They would want to smoke a cigarette. So I would think the same for some who seeing people smoking whatever, marijuana or any other type of drug, they couldn't be in the room. As I said, my prayers are with the family. And it's just a tragedy to me. It's a tragedy to me if indeed, this is a drug death. It's sad because these drugs are lethal out here. And I just can't understand anybody wanting to sample anything out here, especially now, because you don't have any idea what's in that drug. And people will lace drugs just to see something terrible happen to you. So it's even deeper than just sampling something to see what to get this fix that everybody's on and talking about. You don't even know what's in it. Possibly the person that's selling it don't know what's in it. Do you understand what I'm saying? One second, please. Let me step out for just a second. All right, everybody, coming back. Bad lighting, bad everything. Sorry about that, you guys. That was an important phone call I had to take. Okay. Now we're going to jump on to young Dolph. It's crazy information coming out of Memphis, Tennessee. Very, very sick information. All righty. WREG Channel 3 is the source. Thank you for joining me.
While at work, I had a severe foot injury.
I was sideswiped by a car.
I was involved in a serious car wreck.
Donning red and gray jumpsuits, Justin Johnson and Cornelia Smith appeared before a Shelby County judge Friday morning.
Justin Johnson. Good morning, sir. Cornelia Smith. Good morning, sir.
The pair is accused of carrying out the attack on young Dolph last year at Makita's Cookies, where the rapper was shot multiple times and killed. Since January, the duo has been held without bond. Today's hearing was supposed to discuss bond.
I was told it was gang was still in the process of getting additional discovery on these cases.
As a result of both attorneys still gathering evidence, the judge decided to grant an extension until July 1st, meaning no bond at least until then.
One of the factors with regards to bond is likelihood of conviction. Other factors are flight risk, those type of things. So we need to have enough information for the judge so he can base an opinion.
Under Tennessee law, everyone is guaranteed a bond unless you are charged with a capital offense. Michael Schul is the attorney for Cornelia Smith.
When you ask for a bond, especially on a case such as this type, a lot of times the bond may be too high to even make. But we want to try to give it a shot, and because he is entitled to a bond.
Young Dolph's family was at today's hearing. Judge Lee Coffey reminded them oftentimes justice can be delayed.
It probably might not be in 2023. It takes a while for these cases to get tried in Shelby County. So be patient, and you're welcome to be in court every time this case is set.
It remains to be seen if this case will go to trial or if the defendants will accept a plea deal. Schul says they're still weighing their options.
It's just way too early in the case to tell you which way we're going on the decision in this case. And we're going to look at everything in great detail and going to defend him vigorously.
Reporting downtown, Jordan James, WREG, News Channel 3.
I want to just tell
So
you
this is just a matter of getting all the information. The judge wants all this information pertaining to the two defendants in the young Dolph murder trial. Frankly, I don't think they need a bond, but it is the law that each Tennessean is allowed the opportunity to get a bond. The fact that one was apprehended upstate, I believe Indiana, tells you everything you need to know. You already know that you issued a warrant for one of them. He was apprehended in another state, so he's already a flight risk. He's already shown you that he's a flight risk. So what is there to discuss and debate about? That's what I'm curious. I'm trying to figure out what is the debate. But as they say, it's the law. So once again, prayers to young Dolph's family, children. Very sick situation. To now be wrangling over bond and information and evidentiary material to decide who gets a damn bond or not. They don't deserve a bond, in my opinion. Will they take a plea? I don't know. Hell, did they even actually have beef? I saw that in the comments with this man. Or was this a hired hit on the rapper? Did these actual guys have a problem, beef with young Dolph? Did they even know him? But in the end, it doesn't matter because it's sick nonetheless. A man's life is gone. And 9 times out of 10, it's petty. It's not over anything. Once again, another story of gun violence in our country. Trying to think which subject I want to go to. Uvalde or Buffalo. Can't make up my mind. Because they're both jacked up. Thank you for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. All super chats, stickers are welcome during the live. I'm going to go ahead and go with Buffalo. Let's get that one out the way. MSNBC is the source.
Americans age 65 and up who are no longer...
I hate these commercials. Get on my nerve.
Is Dan Urbeck, an investigative reporter for the Buffalo News and co-author of American Terrorist, Timothy McVeigh, and the Oklahoma City bombing. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. What can you tell us about what you've discovered about the communications between this accused murderer and people he might have been communicating with?
Thanks, Lawrence. Well, this retired federal agent was part of this hate group that Gendron was communicating with, and we believe that about 30 minutes before the murders, he told the people in this hate group what was about to happen in the specific location where it was going to happen. Now, could they have stopped it in 30 minutes if they had reached out to somebody? We're never going to know because they didn't try and call anybody.
Do they face any criminal liability for taking no action at all?
I don't know about taking no action at all as far as that being a criminal charge, but I can guarantee you that law enforcement will be looking in every possibility of finding a way to charge people who helped this guy in any way, either through advice, encouragement, helping him to get weapons or magazines or other things that he used for this horrible crime.
Well, you would think that a retired federal agent would know exactly how to call directly to the Buffalo Police Department or federal authorities who would then immediately contact Buffalo. 30 minutes is plenty of time to dispatch units to that supermarket.
I agree with you, and that would be assuming that the retired agent wanted to make such a call. Whoever was hearing this information in advance of this massacre did not make any attempts to reach law enforcement as far as we've been told.
Dan, what similarities have you found so far in your reporting with this case and with the thinking of Timothy McVeigh that you studied so closely?
Well, we interviewed Timothy McVeigh for more than 70 hours on death row, and like this guy, McVeigh was totally involved with guns. He loved guns. Guns were the issue why McVeigh killed 168 people in Oklahoma City. McVeigh did have some racist opinions, but he was not a white supremacist. He had many close black friends in the U.S. Army, and he told us he could never be a white supremacist for that reason alone, because he considered these black guys his battle buddies. But they had the same mindset in terms of the fact that they were willing to kill completely innocent people to make a political point.
So there you have information about a former federal agent may have known about the Buffalo shooters' plan. My thing is this: there are racist people in all walks of life, facets. So it would not shock me. It does not shock me that no one would call to, one, give his name, give his legal name, call the Buffalo Police Department to tell them that he's in this group, blah, blah, blah. Why would they call? They're in that group for a reason. They're mad at the world. They're mad at this person, Arab, Jew, black, whatever, Mexican, it's all the same. Hell no, they're not going to call. Why would they call? Call and say what? Hey, yeah, I'm a racist. I'm in this group. Somebody's getting ready to go shoot up the grocery store in Buffalo, New York. Why would they do that? And some of you may be shocked because, oh, it's a federal agent. Well, he's a man first. He's a machine first. See, when you do this type of craziness, you aid this type of craziness, foolishness, macabre, mayhem. To me, you're a machine. We're gonna rob this from Tasha K. You're a machine. You're not even human. You're a machine. So hell no, nobody in that group was going to call the law enforcement. They feeding off of that madness. They're in there for a reason, or in that group for a reason, because they're tainted. The bottom feeders. They have no hope. Because to sit inside of a racially motivated group means you've lost hope for humanity. You've lost hope for self, because self is first. Self-preservation is first. You got to love yourself, like yourself. So, hell, I know you don't like yourself if you're in a racist group. So I can't expect you to go out here and do right by nobody. So hell no, you're not calling the law to say, yeah, I'm listening to this person go on and on and on about going and shooting up black folks in a supermarket or anywhere else. And as far as McVeigh, I don't give a damn about him having black friends. Most racists have black friends, Mexican friends, Muslim friends, Jewish, it's all the same. And they'll talk about him like a damn dog. And the fact that you said he had made racist comments about whom? Don't leave the door open. He made racist comments. Elaborates. About what exactly? Another racial group? Oh, he didn't have a problem with black folks, but maybe he had a problem with the Arab or the Jew. You see where I'm going? Or the Mexican. It's all the same. I don't buy into that black friends, we fought in war BS. That means nothing to me. Because the fact that you said he made racist comments, then that means another group he didn't have favor for. So what? The black people should feel good. Timothy McVeigh liked black folks. He didn't like anybody. That's why he blew up that damn building. Stay woke. He didn't have love for self. See, some of you don't really pay attention. You don't like yourself. You don't like anybody, white or black. So let me tell you something about racist people. A lot of these white folks running around here crying all that old white supremacy, all that old crazy nonsense. They don't like other white people. They've got a problem with the white man across the street, the white man at the grocery store, the white man at Starbucks, the white lady at the Walmart. Are you following me? They don't like the white woman that answered the phone from AT&T. They would find something wrong with she. It would not matter. Because they're tainted inside. Soul is tainted. The race is irrelevant. Because I'm telling you, they would find something wrong with white folks. They would find something wrong within their own race because their soul is tainted. Thank you for joining me. Chattanooga is my next story. Lord have mercy. What is going on? Local 3 News is the source.
The victims range from teens. Police say 6 people were shot on Cherry Street. The victims range from teens to early 20s. Our Meredith Aldis joins us live with how Mayor Tim Kelly and Police Chief Celeste Murphy are responding to the incident. Meredith.
Mary Frances, I was told it was a chaotic scene. This mass shooting happened at around 10:45 last night on the 100 block of Cherry Street. I'm told 6 people were shot, 2 people with life-threatening injuries. Chief Murphy in the press conference today went over kind of how this happened last night. She says there were groups of unchaperoned juveniles. It was teenagers versus teenagers. A scuffle happened, and then 2 individuals started firing from one of the groups. I'm told officers were patrolling the area at the time, so they were able to respond quickly. I'm also told victims were not the intended targets. At this time, there is no evidence to indicate it's gang-related. That's what Police Chief Murphy said. Now, both Chief Murphy and Mayor Kelly said this shooting was unacceptable.
And once again, I'm standing here in front of you talking about our community's youth getting shot. That's outrageous, and it has to stop. It's ridiculous that I even need to publicly state that guns have no place in the hands of our kids, and that children shouldn't be wandering around in the middle of the night without supervision.
Officials say the person who was detained last night was ruled out as a suspect, and at this time, no one is in custody in regards to this mass shooting. We've received so many phone calls today from parents and grandparents who are concerned for their teenagers who were out in downtown Chattanooga and who may be at Riverbend this weekend. And Police Chief Murphy assures us that there will be extra police presence at Riverbend this weekend. She and Mayor Kelly are asking parents to work with them, to know where your parents are or where your children are and know who they're with. If you have any information on this shooting, you can submit a tip through the Atlas One app. Of course, you will remain anonymous. Tonight at 11, hear from a victim from a person who was there and who ended up helping a victim. Hear from him tonight at 11. Reporting live in Chattanooga, Meredith Aldis, Local 3 News.
All right, everybody.
Clean up with the double AT and Aaron, you should have ripped your own dishwasher dryer.
What's the problem there? Victims were not the intended. It makes no sense what you're saying. So first you say you don't think it's gang related, law enforcement. A group of children get in a scuffle. It's kind of more than a scuffle when you have a gun. First of all, what are you doing out running around the streets unattended? Why do you have weapons? Who had the weapons? How many had weapons? How many children are we speaking of that were in a scuffle? Not gang related. You still look bad as a child having a weapon. You didn't just go buy it from the ice cream shop. So you were walking around with a weapon downtown. So that means you're looking for trouble, in my opinion. You should have been in the house watching Netflix or playing a video game or sitting out in front of somebody's yard, enjoying yourself being a young person. But no, instead you're walking around the city around half-assed civilized people with the weapon, but yet it's not gang related. I don't really give a damn if it's gang related or not. The point is a child has access to a gun. Where'd they get the gun from? How many had a gun? Then you got the nerve to say, well, the people that got shot, they weren't the intended victims. So what you saying? They were shooting in the air. What are you saying? Stupid. And as the mayor said, shouldn't even have to be giving a press conference about a child with a gun and unattended running around the city while people are out trying to enjoy themselves, enjoy fine weather here, great state of Tennessee. So now you can't even go out downtown, your downtown area, enjoy yourself. Because you got to worry about some wannabe thugs shooting. Okay. Sounds about right. Let me give you a little bit of information pertaining to what's going on in America. Pertaining to these shootings. Washington Post is the source. U.S. marks Memorial Day weekend with at least 12 mass shootings. This was uploaded May 30th. After shooting, let's see. Tell me, they're not going to let me bring this article up. Washington Post does not like, they do not like anybody reading their material. I'm just going to go off and say 15 mass shootings as of late, per the Washington Post. This article says 12. Arizona, California. Something terribly wrong with the guns being accessible to young people. They have no business with guns. If you have a gun, you need to lock your gun up in your home. The fact that an 18-year-old can go buy a heavy artillery is troublesome. Because what do you need it for? Like somebody said, the person that sold that boy that gun out in Texas, you weren't curious to why he was buying this heavy artillery? Then dawn on you, what is he getting ready to do with this AR-15? Or you just didn't give a damn? You thought he was getting ready to hunt what out there in Texas? Deer, elk, what? It's not hunting season. So what the hell was he getting ready to hunt with an AR-15 in the state of Texas? I'm just asking. Nobody cares. This incident in Chattanooga, I'm going to give you a bystander's synopsis. Bystanders take shelter in Chattanooga ice cream shop during shooting Saturday. ABC 9 is the source. It's very sickening. The shooting on Cherry Street in downtown Chattanooga that injured 6 minors turned a peaceful walk into an alley of chaos. Just a little ways away, the ice cream show, a family-friendly establishment, turned into a shelter for those avoiding gunfire. A busy day of work at the ice cream show for McGann could never prepare him for the terror of Saturday night. Quote, unquote. I turn around and I see people flooding in and I see the fear in their face, says McGann. As shots rang out on Cherry Street, crowds of people were forced into the shop with nowhere left to run. 45 people crammed into the shop, and they were not ready to go down without a fight. Arming themselves and customers with knives and bats, Coon worked out their survival plans. Although grateful for their safety in the aftermath, concerns about growing gun violence are echoed throughout the country with at least 12 mass shootings this Memorial weekend. 12. 12 in just a couple of days. This is ridiculous. So this is what they're saying about the, oh, I'm so sorry, and prayers and this and that. It's like empty words, because just as soon as you're trying to get over what happened in Texas or wherever, here comes another incident of somebody getting shot, several people, for some stupid reason, because there's never a good reason to be out here just shooting random strangers.
Back to today, to Saturday night right here in Chattanooga. He spoke to employees of a Chattanooga business who helped arm their customers in the moments following Saturday's shooting.
The shooting here on Cherry Street that left 6 children injured turned this quiet, peaceful walk into an alley of chaos. And just a little ways away, the ice cream show, a family-friendly establishment, turned into a shelter. A busy day of work at the ice cream show could never prepare Andy McGann for the terror of Saturday night.
I see people flooding in and I see the fear in their face.
6 teenagers shot on Cherry Street, forcing crowds of people into the shop with nowhere left to run.
It just felt very trapped, because if he came in, there was nowhere we could go.
45 people crammed into the shop and not ready to go down without a fight.
We're not going to just let ourselves be shot.
Arming themselves and customers with knives and bats, the shop's employees worked out their survival plans.
The lady who was in here called the police, and then I had my coworker Pearl just relay information to the back. Asked what the person had, like a rifle, shotgun, or just a regular pistol.
And although grateful for their safety, their concerns about gun violence are echoed throughout the country, with at least 12 mass shootings this Memorial weekend.
Shows that there's an issue there and just makes it all the more tragic.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee.
The shooting in downtown shocking Michael Gordon with the pursuit of happiness.
Why are these kids holding guns? Why is there a safety issue?
Concern about lax gun laws allowing firearms into children's hands, a lack of programs for Chattanooga youth, and violent attacks Gordon hopes to end.
To bring in the mayor the police, chief, pastors, so we can get together to figure out what is the problem.
So that no one will have to cower in fear.
I think it's scary. It just shows that a change is definitely happening, not only here in Tennessee, but just in our country overall. And it's rising, and I think it definitely needs to be dealt with.
In Chattanooga, Sam Pena, News Channel 9.
And as community advocates push for tighter gun control, federal lawmakers are trying to pass new legislation. House Democrats have put together a package to vote on Thursday. It's called the Protecting Our Kids Act. It includes raising the legal age to buy a semi-automatic rifle from 18 to 21. It establishes a new federal offense for the import, sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession of a large capacity magazine. The legislation also establishes requirements to regulate the storage of firearms at homes.
Okay. As I said, 12 mass shootings this weekend in our country. Why? People crammed into an ice cream shop. How bad can it be to have to be in an ice cream shop, not knowing if the shooter's going to come in there? You don't know what's going on. You don't know that it's just a bunch of punks disputing with each other over nothing. So what happened? Mistaken identity, what? Then they say the people who were shot weren't intended victims. That makes no sense to me. Well, somebody pulled out a gun from each group. So how could the people who got shot not be intended? So what? And you just said they were children that got shot. So what are we saying? Bystanders? Somebody was stupid enough to still be standing there watching somebody argue and pull out a gun. And you're still standing there. But I've seen people who like to be a part of the hood mentality. Hey, man, they fighting and go run and stand and watch. Don't give a damn if they're going to pull out a gun, knife, or nothing, because you just want to see what the hell's going on. So is that what we're talking about? Some other young people were standing around when they were watching, and they got shot by accident. Just asking. Not gang related. The people shot weren't intended victims, but they make it make sense to me. This is BS. Doesn't make any sense. 2 children have been laid to rest out in Uvalde, Texas. I'm going to bring you that sad information. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. We got a lot of BS going on about this Uvalde. U.S. Department of Justice is now involved in investigating what happened and transpired with the police department and entering the school. This is not a criminal investigation. The information that I'm going to bring you is just to get data and allegedly appropriate facts. What actually happened in Uvalde? What actually happened? Because I'm curious. Because now the narrative has changed again pertaining to that day in that Texas school. Now there's issues of what the teacher didn't do. So now we know that the teacher is an alive person, not one of the decedents. She also has a lawyer, and her lawyer is disputing what has been said about her to the general public, that she left the damn door open. And I'm going to bring you said commentary. You're entitled to believe what you want. At this point, I don't really have too much to even say about the damn door anymore. Hell, was there even a door attached? How about that? Since the door wasn't left open. Before, after, during. That's why I didn't want to talk about this anymore. Because I see where this is going. This is about to be now. He said, she said about a damn door. Let's talk about the 2 kids. CBS New York is the source. Thank you for joining.
Classroom, even as students.
Of the 19 children who were killed in the elementary school shooting, 2 teachers also died. CBS 2's Lilia Luciano has more now on the services for the 10-year-old girls in Uvalde.
Mourners arrived at the funeral mass for Emery Jo Garza. She and 18 classmates were killed alongside 2 teachers in their 4th grade classroom 1 week ago today. 10-year-old Maite Rodriguez will also be laid to rest today.
She looks like nothing happened to her. She looks like she died at peace.
We all know the reality. Investigators say their teacher, Eva Mireles, died shielding her students from the gunman. The dog lover, mother, and wife to a police officer knew to protect. She was finishing her 17th year of teaching. As the shooting unfolded, a family member texted Ava in a group chat asking if she was okay. There was no response.
I never in my dreams thought that my sister was not going to make it.
The Department of Justice has launched a review to understand why it took law enforcement 75 minutes before going into the classroom to stop the shooter. The review is not a criminal investigation, but an opportunity to learn critical lessons for the future.
Officials announced last week the school district police chief held officers outside the classroom even as students were calling 911 because he believed there was no one left alive in the room to save. Today,
so now they show a window outside of the school. So there was a window
outside Robb Elementary School to lay a wreath, many clearly shaking. Also the memorial, actor Matthew McConaughey, who grew up in Uvalde. There will be 9 more funerals this week and the rest in the weeks to come. Lilia Luciano, CBS News, Uvalde, Texas.
Did you know you can receive free?
2 children laid to rest. Prayers to the families in the community. As I said, this is a investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice to get an account of what happened in Uvalde, Texas. But are you going to get an actual account? Because now there's more information that is disputing what you told us days ago about what happened out there. I don't know what to say. This is bad business right here, honey. This is real bad business. ABC News is the source. It's uploaded an hour ago.
Massacre later today. Funerals will be held for 10-year-old Jose Flores, teacher Irma Garcia, and her husband Joe, who died of a heart attack just days after that shooting. They left behind 4 children.
It's so tragic. We are also learning new details about how the gunman got into the school. Marcus Moore starts us off in Uvalde. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, George, good morning. Those funerals are set for later this morning and afternoon as this community tries to heal. You can see the memorial just behind me here, and new questions are emerging this morning about what happened the day that 18-year-old gunman came to this school, killed so many innocent children. This morning, new questions about how the gunman got into Robb Elementary School and carried out his deadly rampage. Authorities changing their story on Friday, saying that a teacher left a door propped open, allowing the gunman to enter.
The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open.
But this morning, the teacher's lawyer telling the San Antonio Express News she had propped the door open to get food from her car. She saw the gunman crash his truck, ran back into the classroom to get her phone and dial 911, and then closed the door shut after realizing the gunman was heading toward the school. Her lawyer saying, quote, she thought the door would lock because the door is always supposed to be locked. Now, the Texas Department of Public Safety walking back their earlier comments and confirming the teacher's story as law enforcement studies these images appearing to show the gunman walking right into the building.
Guy with a rifle.
Video obtained by ABC News raising questions about law enforcement's response as investigators piece together each moment of that 77-minute rampage. At 11:33 a.m., the gunman entering through that door, making his way into 2 connected classrooms, immediately firing more than 100 rounds. One of those classrooms seen here in a photo the school posted on Facebook in April. By 11:35, officers entered the school through the same entrance and took fire, but did not breach the classroom or take the gunman down. Police are seen rescuing children after breaking a window.
More kids running out. They're breaking windows.
Parents outside urging officers to go in and save the others.
You know that they're kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
Sources telling ABC News the carnage only ended when Border Protection agents decided to use a custodian's key to breach the door and kill the gunman at 12:50 p.m. Outside the school, a race to find the wounded. What sounds like radio dispatch capturing one of the victims talking to police.
Hey, are you in there?
Oh my God!
Where? Shot a kid? A girl got shot a kid.
Overnight, Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo, who is facing criticism for making the decision to wait for more resources rather than confront the gunman, sworn in as a city council member after the ceremony was delayed by several hours. ABC News learning Arredondo has not yet responded to a request for a follow-up interview with Texas Rangers investigating the shooting response. 19 students and 2 teachers losing their lives in the massacre. 10-year-old Amari Jo Garza and 10-year-old Maite Rodriguez, the first to be laid to rest.
She was going to be something. She was going to be something very, very special.
And the Girl Scouts posthumously awarded 10-year-old Amari Jo with the Bronze Cross for risking her life to save her friends and classmates that day by calling 911 before she was shot. It is one of the highest honors awarded by the Girl Scouts. And Michael, there were so many brave children in this school building last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marcus.
Hi, everyone. George.
ABC News is the source. So now we have a difference of aversion. So the teacher now says she went out to her car to get food out of her car, had propped the door open. This is when she sees the suspect wrecking the truck. Jumping out, I suppose. So she takes cover to run back into the building to get her phone or use her phone. But then says she comes back. This is where I'm confused. Back to the door. Shut the door. Then she said she thought it locked on its own. That's why I always ask, did the outside of the door have handles? Because some doors won't have handles so as no one can try to pry their way to a building. I'm utterly confused to what is the truth. Because the way they worded it in this commentary, she went out to get food. So that means she went out the door, propped it open, went to the car, saw whatever was going on with the shooter. Wouldn't she have been running out of the fear of being hurt or harmed by this person? So what she have been thinking to shut the door or close the door? Because, we always say what we would do if this or this happened. So is it perhaps that when she went out, went to the car, was coming back with the food, whatever, however it went, she saw this person, she feared for her safety and ran back in to call, but didn't shut the door, was just running with the food, dropped the food, what? Because I don't hear that she dropped the food. Was the food in a bag, in her hand? Are we talking about bags of fast food? Are we talking about Tupperware bowls? What are we saying? See, when you explain a story, you have to give details because most people are going to ask these questions. So you run in to call, go get your phone. But then they say she come back. She said she come back to shut the door. Why would I come back to shut the door if I'm running from trouble? Wouldn't I shut the door when I go into the building? Or is this woman lying? Not trying to be nasty, but something is not adding up. I said this last week when I brought you this information with the difference of the aversions. One minute they said this, and they swept it up and cleaned up something. Now she's got a lawyer because I guess she don't like what's being said. Well, people are going to talk. They're going to ask because you got to make it make sense. What were you doing? Why did you leave the door propped open? Did you run back in when you saw trouble and just forgot to lock the damn door out of being scared? Did you drop the food? Were you carrying the food? Because you're going to be asked all those questions. And that's the first thing what happened if you had to go to trial. Let's say this was a trial. You went to court. You think that lawyer's not going to ask you, did you drop the bag, man, while you were running? Or you carried the food in because it was important for you to carry the food in and then grab your phone to call 911 and then double back to lock the door. I'm not interested in that foolishness. Don't come in my chat with that foolish talk. What happened? I don't even think we're going to get to the truth to the door situation. Because as I told you all days ago, the worst thing he could have done was shoot people outside, shoot at the windows, shoot in the windows. Not saying he couldn't shoot, kill the kids and the teachers shooting through the windows. But that would have been the only thing he could do had he not been able to get inside of the building. And some don't think it made a big deal if they had security or not. Well, you need security. That's just common sense. You need security in the bank. You need security in the stores. Just like you got law enforcement, border control. It's all the same damn thing. Yes, you do need security. Because anything could jump off. Anything did jump off. As I said, it could have been an irate teacher, irate parent arguing, fussing, fighting. Kids could have been into it. Anything. You do need security. Hell, that's what you hired them for. Well, where were they? I'm going to say it. Political situations. We're going to talk about this Republican, Democrat situation. We're going to go ahead and air it out and be done with it. A lot of people are followers. A lot of people follow their party in voting on certain things just because that's their party. But I personally don't believe in that. I don't believe in voting on anything that I don't agree with. I'm not going to go along with my party to vote on something. So gun control is an issue. You're going to hear that in my next commentary. 11 people can determine gun control in this country in the Senate, but they refuse to vote because they're followers. They want to follow the Republican Party to just do whatever. Well, that's my party. I'm going to go on and vote how they vote. Well, hell, if he says jump in the river, you're going to jump in the river? You know you can't swim, but you're going to jump in anyway. Why would you do that? It's time to take responsibility. No one needs to be walking around with an AR-15. I don't give a damn how old you are. 18, 21, 50. For what? What do you need it for? I don't think they should be sold in this country, period. For what? Because when you start trying to stipulate what age you should be to get the gun, it's not going to matter because once the person is allowed to buy the gun, either licensed or you just sell them out the store, you don't know the mindset of the person with the gun. So everything is about mindset and access. You don't know who's going to grab a gun, knife, bat to do anything to anybody. And a lot of people who are licensed carriers are mentally unstable. We've seen that with Zimmerman and other parties, even that mess that took place up in Wisconsin. I don't give a care if those people running in the street saying this to him. That boy was all over the place that day. He was what I call Captain Save-A-Ho. Pretending to be this, pretending to be that. He wanted to be involved in something when he had no business over there in Wisconsin in the first place because one, he was a child and underage, and he didn't have no business with a gun. And he knew he was wrong for having the gun. That's why an adult bought him the gun. Another adult, his friend. And the friend's father stored the gun in the basement. And then they gave him that gun on that fateful day when all that mess jumped off. See, there are a lot of people that don't need guns. Well, you may not feel she's responsible, but some people may feel she's responsible because you left the door open. You don't need doors propped open. That's the assumption that people were lax in their behavior. See, that's where I'm going to take this commentary to. Who is responsible for the Uvalde shootings besides the shooter? I know what he did was wrong. I know that he was a messed up soul, an empty vessel. But see, that's the problem. A lot of us are aiding people in their foolishness. You can't assume nothing bad is going to happen because it's an elementary school. Okay? And I believe that was the reason why there was nobody working. Oh, it's an elementary school. It's no big deal. They're just second, third, fourth graders. What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst happened. And now you got different versions about a fucking door. So I say somebody's feeling some type of way. You got to go get a lawyer to dispute about what happened with a door. You got now 3 different versions about a door. But that ain't no big deal. It must be a big deal. Why get a lawyer? Who's responsible? Will we get a vote for gun control? No selling of heavy artillery, period. Give a damn if you're licensed or not. Psych evaluations or not to get a gun, heavy artillery. We don't need AR-15s, period. Last I checked, a revolver can do a good job. Now, like they said, you live somewhere like Alaska, Duck Off, where we got wild animals. Here in my area, East Tennessee, in the mountains, where you got bears, you possibly need a big gun to take down a bear. That's about the biggest animal you're going to confront from the wild that could set foot on your property. But we don't need AR-15s in the streets for no reason. Because right now we have licensed carriers who are not stable to carry a weapon. And I'm all for people protecting themselves. I believe every citizen should be allowed to have the gun if he or she is licensed by the state that they live in to carry a weapon. I'm all for the Constitution saying you can have a weapon. Because naturally when they wrote that, they didn't put in there anything about having a license way back when. But just because you're licensed doesn't mean you are stable to carry the gun. That's the problem. So it's an argument of Republican rhetoric, Democrats too lenient, lax. Mental health, they will argue that it's no different than any other countries with mental disabilities. Appropriate protocol, appropriate actions from the police department. Did they do their job? I do believe it's a matter that the police were afraid to go into that rooms to do what they needed to do. It's obvious because they're saying from the FBI that is the first call is to secure the shooter by all means necessary. And that was not done in the Uvalde school shooting. You had to go call for backup. So now let's ask the ultimate question. Do you not have a tactical team of the Uvalde Police Department our way? Why is the police chief now not responding to interviews and interviews by the Justice Department? Do you take accountability that your officers did not follow through to secure the school, chief? Do you have any remorse or regrets about your officers not securing the school? Do the officers have any regrets by not securing the school? Why do you not have a tactical team to secure any situation in Uvalde, Texas? Were those officers scared to fight the shooter? Because I think that's what happened in Uvalde. You all were afraid. You were afraid of an 18-year-old with an AR-15. You were afraid of being shot to death or wounded. But that's your job. Because the threat could have been the same had you went to his house where he shot the grandmother. Ting, ting, ting. Bingo card. Stay woke. The threat was imminent on that day, irregardless. Because the grandmother was able to call the police to tell the police she had been shot by her grandson. So the threat was imminent anyway. That is your job, to assess the situation with a suspect that he or she has a weapon, can grab a weapon, grab a hostage. So when some of you sit up here and act like it's no big deal for the school not to have nobody there working, you sound ridiculous. He could have easily held them hostage. Let's talk about that. That is the only reason it should have been 75 minutes of negotiation, is if indeed he or she was holding someone and them hostage and he was making demands. That is the only reason this should have gone on for 75 minutes, 77 minutes, however long it is. So now we know that you couldn't have been negotiating with the suspect because we have children calling 911 to say they've been shot. their friends been shot, their teachers been shot, and you are in the school, police officers, trying to get other children, teachers out of the room. Kudos, thank you. We're so thankful to you for that. But what about the children that were in the room with the shooter, scared to death, bleeding to death, shot up, broke up, cut up into pieces, wondering if they're going to live or die, playing dead in the room with the perpetrator? And we do know that one teacher was left alive up until the very end, until he decided to turn on her and shoot her, while responding to the officers outside of the door. Were these children and teachers failed? Was law enforcement not equipped to go in and assess the situation, contain the situation? Were they afraid to confront the shooter? I do believe they were. 75 minutes. And I don't hear of no negotiations with the shooter. What do you need? What can we do to help you? What's wrong? Why are you doing this? How many are alive, sir? How many are dead, sir? Will you please try to come out, sir? I haven't heard any of that. And the children are calling. So then that means you couldn't have been negotiating. Because wouldn't you be asking the child on the 911 call, is the suspect talking? Is he asking for anything? That's how one of the little girls got shot. He heard her on the phone. So it doesn't seem that they were even negotiating. So what the fuck were you doing for 75 minutes? You see, I tried to be nice last week. I ain't nice today. Because you got to explain logically what you were doing for 70-something minutes. An hour and a half or more. See? Another lie. First it was an hour. Now you're at 75, 77 minutes. Every news podcast, news agent has a different number. 1 hour, 75 minutes, 72 minutes, 77 minutes, 76 minutes. Oh, what is it? They had to go get a key from the janitor. Huh? The border control went in. Huh? No tactical team of the Uvalde Police Department. Why not? You don't have a tactical team? Hell, do you even have working detectives? What is this? Mayberry? You see, y'all love to say, if you knew better, you do better. A lot of people already know better. We're going to have to stop using that because really that saying don't make no damn sense. A lot of people know better. You do what you want to do. My daddy taught me that. I say what I want. I do what I want. When I want. I don't need your permission. What the hell happened in Uvalde? Did the teacher leave the damn door open or not? Why would you not close it back if you're running for your life? Or were you scared and didn't think, just ran? But then you said you ran and got a phone, then came back. Thought you locked the door. So it wasn't that she shut the door, but it didn't lock. Video shows, yeah, he walked into the school. Department of Justice is investigating to gather the information, but that is it. This is not a criminal investigation for those who are curious. So one would say, why are you doing all this? For what? It's not bringing the children back. It's not bringing the kids back. You're going to gain what knowledge when you can't even get the damn story correct to give us the information? Who is going to give us the accurate portrayal of what the fuck happened in that damn school? Nobody but the kids. That's the only person I believe at this point is a child. This is bad news, man. This is ultimately bad news.
Introducing the new 3-for-1.
MSNBC is the source. Police response to Uvalde school shooting under review as funeral services began. Said information.
With NBC's Shaq Brewster and NBC Justice correspondent P. Williams. Shaq, today the focus is on the victims. And also, there continues to be scrutiny of the Uvalde police chief. Tell us where that stands.
Yeah, another visitation starts just this hour, Andrea. And over the course of the weekend, we've just seen so much grief, so much pain, and so much sadness. This is one of the memorials in Uvalde where you have people coming from all over to pay their respects. I'll let you kind of take a look at the constant flow of people that we have here. There's so many flowers, so many candles, teddy bears, flags, people coming around to just write a note. So much grief in this town, and you have a feeling that so many people are coming out to do whatever they can to honor the victims of this shooting. You mentioned the first visitation that we saw started yesterday. It was a visitation for Amarie Jo Garza. Her grandmother said she was shot while making a phone call in the room. She's described by her family as a beautiful and loving girl. There's also Maite Rodriguez, a marine biologist she wanted to be. She wanted to study at Texas A&M University. Her obituary read, "Those who know and loved her were blessed with her kind, ambitious, friendly, and sweet soul." And you know, Andrea, one thing that we see is the grief that is here, that sense of sadness, but there's also a building sense of frustration that's mounting, and that's combined with that sadness. The last update that we got from state officials who are investigating this shooting was on Friday, and that's when we learned what they call the string of errors that took place, including the decision not to engage the shooter, but instead hold officers outside of the classroom. And much of the attention and much of the focus has been directed at the police chief of the Uvalde School District Police Department, a small department, but that chief, Pete Arredondo, was the incident commander at the site, and state officials are pointing the finger at him for making that decision of not engaging the shooter. We learned from the mayor yesterday. I want you to see, we got a statement. I want to put that statement up on screen, but the mayor saying Pete Arredondo was duly elected to the city council. There's nothing in the city charter, election code, or Texas Constitution that prohibits him from taking the oath of office. To our knowledge, we're currently not aware of any investigation of Mr. Arredondo. Despite the lack of investigation, there's a lot of questions that are there. We expected to see him sworn in to city council today. That swearing in has been canceled. We have reached out to Mr. Arredondo directly as a network. We have not heard anything back, but that is where a lot of the attention and frustration is being directed at right now, as there's still so much.
Let me stop that right there. So you are the chief of police, and you're now going to be working on the city council. What the hell? What is going on here? I ain't never heard of that. So you're going to have dual positions, Mr. Arredondo. So that's why you know this is a small town. Should a police officer also be on the city council? A police official? What do you think about that? They say here they don't know of any criminal investigation about the chief. And as I told you, the U.S. Department of Justice is conducting an investigation on this incident, but it is not a criminal investigation. So there'll be nobody going to jail. Hell, should somebody be going to jail? Should somebody be standing account for what happened in Uvalde besides the shooter? Should there be somebody getting fired? Should somebody be resigning? You will hear commentary on news networks pertaining to these questions. Should somebody be standing account for what happened? Should somebody be fired from their position, resign from their position? He's now not responding. And now you're getting information that this bald-headed man wants to be a city council member. For what? You already the chief of police? What you want to be on the city council for? I'm just asking. Because I ain't never heard of no mess like this before. I've heard of regular civilians being on the city council. Naturally, they have different positions, work, jobs in the city. But I don't think I've ever heard of a police official being on the city council. Yeah. And they say everything's big in Texas. Obviously not big enough.
Now, as there's still so much pain and so much grief in this community, Andrea.
But thanks to Shaq and Pete, We're waiting to hear just who's going to lead the Justice Department's critical incident report into the police response in the shooting and how that investigation will proceed. This is part of the Justice Department that was really dismantled partly under Donald Trump, so they are rebuilding.
But this is what's known as the COPS Office, Community-Oriented Policing Services, and they've done these critical incident reviews in the past. They did one after the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016. You may remember that one in Orlando. That took 18 months to complete that report because of the complexity of the shooting scene and the number of victims. The service also did a similar after-action review on the terrorist shooting in San Bernardino at the government office. That one took 10 months to review. So we don't know yet who's going to lead it, but it'll be somebody from the COPS office. And you can expect, Andrea, that it will take months to complete this. It will look at what happened. It will also make recommendations based on what they've done in the past. But it won't include, for example, as we understand it, it won't include people from the FBI doing this investigation. It's not a criminal investigation. It's a look at the policies, the decision, the wisdom, if you will. And it also is not just to sort of find fault. It's also to look at what happened here and see what lessons can be learned so that other police departments can benefit from whatever recommendations the report makes. But it's going to be, possibly up to a year if these other ones are like it. I would assume they'll take a similar amount of time.
Introducing a whole new way to save from Xfinity.
Brief intermission. Thank you all for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $DeGanji129 Cash App. All super chats and stickers are welcome during this live. Thank you so much.
To you and, of course, to Shaq. Matt Miller is joining us. He served at the Justice Department as the spokesperson for Attorney General Eric Holder and joins me now and afterwards with the Biden White House for a while with the National Security Council team as well. So, drawing on your experience, Matt, another tragedy, another series of questions, serious questions about the local response, a grieving community, but these questions need to be asked, as difficult as they are, on why that gap, an hour and 17 minutes, with people not going in, when all the playbooks that we've read, even by those who've designed the FBI routines, are to go in right away when you have an active shooter.
That's right, Andrea. It's clear that the best practices that have been sadly developed over the years since Columbine were not followed in this incident. I think one of the things that's important to note about this review that the department's going to conduct is something that Pete noted. This is not a criminal investigation. So I think we're all familiar with the types of investigations DOJ can conduct into police departments when there are allegations of criminal wrongdoing, excessive force. For example, the investigation that the department announced last year into the Minneapolis Police Department after the killing of George Floyd. This isn't that. There's no allegation of criminal wrongdoing in this case. Gross incompetence, maybe, failure to follow training, maybe, but not a criminal investigation. So this is one in which the department relies on the cooperation of the local police department.
Let me stop there. As I said, Department of Justice is doing an investigation. And as you hear this commentator giving information, this is not a criminal investigation. Gross negligence, worst case scenario. Not appropriate protocol by the police. Should there be a criminal investigation? Let's go there. Should someone be at fault besides the shooter? Should someone be at fault for not following through to get those children out of that room, the teachers out of that room, the wounded out of that room? Is there a possibility that some of the children who were wounded, because naturally the injuries would be severe due to the type of weapon used, is there that small, minute chance that there's somebody could have survived their wounds? We will never know. It would be up to the coroner to say, this person lied here this long and could have survived. Will we even get that? A coroner's report to say, this one, or that one could have survived his or her injuries. And we know, as I said, with the type of weapon used, would be severe damage to the body. But we don't know, but we weren't there in the room to see where each person was shot. But we do know that there were alive people, children, in the room amongst the injured and the dead. And now we have to ask ourselves, is there a slim chance that somebody could have survived while waiting the 75 minutes for the cavalry to come in? And should somebody stand account for that 75 minutes?
Of the local police department, and in which they can only investigate when they've been invited to do so, as they have been here by the city of Uvalde. So I think they will be looking at what actually happened on the scene, and we continue to hear reports from the Texas Department of Public Safety. But I don't think at this point we should take anything that we hear out of local law enforcement with 100% veracity, given the shifting statements that we've heard over the past few days. So DOJ will want to look at what.
Did you hear what he said? Basically saying you can't believe what they've told us at 100% because of the shifting stories that have been given to the public. And this is the worst thing for the news, because the news has always been blamed in the recent years as, shooting a narrative, putting out what they want to put out about a story. Law enforcement giving what version they want to repeat to the news agents. And then you have a terrible shooting in a small town, and you start getting conflicting information the first few days of the shooting, after the shooting. You didn't know what to believe. Now you've got people bickering back and forth about what a teacher did or didn't do at a door. Police not going in to finish the job. You started the job, he shot at you, you backed out, and then you called for backup. But look how long it was before the cavalry opened the door. So then a person with some sense would say, damn, could somebody have been saved? The extra people that got shot after the first round of shootings could be alive right now, perhaps, that you pushed the damn door open. But I believe they were afraid, because they didn't know what was going to pop off behind that damn door. But that's life. That is your job. You are to protect and to serve. And I'm assuming that once the two officers were shot, they said, hell no, we ain't going back in there. We're going to call somebody else that's got bigger tools, armor to go in. That's what I think happened at Uvalde. It's exactly what I think.
With 100% veracity, given the shifting statements that we've heard over the past few days. So DOJ will want to look at what happened, what mistakes were made, what best practices could be instituted for other police departments, and what reforms, if any, ought to be instituted in Uvalde.
How important, though, is local leadership? Because whatever they decide, it has to be implemented by someone at the local level. This is a small community, 15,000 people.
The local leadership is critically important, not just for implementing any reforms that come out of this report, but also for
Let me address something. Cynthia Campbell, that is not what's being reported in this commentary that I've brought to you. You need to go back and watch the replay. The teacher who allegedly left the door open is alive and has a lawyer. I've already played the commentary. If you want to dispute anything that I've said in this commentary, you can take it up with the local news station. I'm not here to argue anything that's been said in any commentary, because just as this gentleman has said, the past week has been nothing but different versions of what happened in Uvalde. And now you have a new version. The teacher has an attorney, and the teacher is saying she thought the door was locked. So a dead person couldn't say that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Also for ensuring that the department can actually get access to the people and the information that it needs. because this isn't a criminal investigation, DOJ can't subpoena any one of the local law enforcement officials and make them come to a grand jury and testify. They will rely on the chief of police or the mayor ordering people to cooperate, ordering people to tell what they know happened for DOJ to be able to assemble all of the answers and develop a complete report of what happened on that day. So it is crucial that they get a direction from the top in the city, and I would say as well as the state, because the Uvalde Police Department was not the only law enforcement agency on the scene. It's going to be important that DOJ talk to every law enforcement, local, state, and federal that responded.
And as we know, there's a lot of tension between state and this locality in terms of the local state rep and what you're hearing from the governor, certainly, and the other top state officials.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think what you've seen over the past few days is a lot of finger pointing among them. One thing I want to add, though, Andrea, is I do think it's important as we look at this review, as it launches, as it gets underway, and then ultimately as we review the report when it's finalized, is if we continue to expect police to solve all these situations, we will continue to find ourselves asking these questions in the wake of shootings. It's important that we get to the bottom of the mistakes that the police department seems to have made, but we will not police our way out of this situation.
That's a very fair point. I might also add, we cannot expect teachers to resolve this either, in terms of becoming an adjunct to the police force. Matt Miller, thank you.
Well, that's the sad information. You entitled to your opinion on whatever happened in Uvalde, because I don't tell you the truth. All I know is people got killed. Some survived and some did not. And if we're already a week over and we're getting difference of conversation of what happened and who did what, it is what it is. You now don't really know what happened. Why am I to believe anything that's been said? As I said earlier, the only person I believe at this point are the children who survived. That's the only person I believe right now. And that's just how I feel about the situation. Because you can't keep changing the version. The versions keep changing. It's outrageous at this point. Now the chief of police doesn't want to respond to any conversation from the U.S. Department of Justice, news agents. Why not? Running for political office. Guess supposed to be sworn in to city council. You got bigger fish to fry than be worried about sitting on the damn city council. Do you stand behind what happened in Uvalde, sir? Is that why you're not speaking? You stand behind the actions of your officers. Are you admitting you didn't have willing participants to take down the shooter? Are you going to admit that they were scared to go in after the shooter? That's why there was a 75-minute window. Why don't you have a tactical team? Why did the U.S. Border Control have to come in to step in to go into the school? This is sickening to me. I'm going to bring you MSNBC, and then I'm going to tap out of here. Watch the readout highlights. This is from May 31st. This is uploaded 5 hours ago. Thank you all for joining me. She's going to give you the business. Every information I've repeated in this live is posted to my community post, except for the Master P article I read. Thank you for joining me.
Homeowners for a limited time.
This is a breakdown of what happened allegedly in Uvalde. This is her personal opinion pertaining to the situation. MSNBC is the source.
Eulogized. Today, the first two children, Amerie Jo Garza and Maite Rodriguez, were laid to rest. As this city grieves over such an unthinkable act, and many questions remain unanswered, we're also looking toward the country's elected leadership to finally take a stand and do something, anything, to help curb this endless cycle of senseless loss. In just the past week since the Uvalde massacre, there have been 18 more mass shootings across this country, according to the Gun Violence Archive, in places like Fresno, California, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Benton Harbor, Michigan, and Taft, Oklahoma. We just had the funerals for the victims in Buffalo, Houston, and Laguna Woods, California. Now, many more burials are being planned. In fact, there have been 231 mass shootings so far this year, more than one per day. Just let that sink in. So how would a rational country react to tragedy after tragedy committed with the use of the same weapons of war almost every time? How about expanding background checks, banning hundreds of types of military-style weapons, starting a gun buyback program, banning the sale and transfer of large-capacity magazines, or creating new red flag laws, allowing courts to require that people considered a danger to themselves or others surrender their firearms to police?
Very good
That'd
point.
be a good start, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know who is doing that after the latest tragedy in Texas? Canada. And their death rate due to gun violence is a fraction of what it is here in the United States, even though Canadians have lots of guns too. But when it comes to our guns, this country is anything but rational. The NRA continues to have its stranglehold over the Republican Party, and so we continue the cycle from Columbine to Sandy Hook to Parkland and now in Uvalde of what can only be described as nothing less than nearly complete inaction, just thoughts and prayers and stasis. Even something like universal background checks, with nearly 90% support from Americans, has repeatedly failed. So once again, we are compelled to ask if this time will be any different. President Biden remains optimistic that this could be the time. He tends to be an optimistic guy. He sees the chance for what he calls rational Republicans to act on gun reforms, adding that the Second Amendment was never absolute. Today, he again pointed to the fact that we all can agree on a lot of these tragedies could have been prevented.
There's an expression by an Irish poet that says, too long of suffering makes a stone of the heart. Well, there's an awful lot of suffering. I've been to war, mass shooting, aftermath, and I think any president of American history, unfortunately. And it's just so much of it is preventable, and the devastation is amazing.
Okay, Mr. President, we'll see. By the way, the person sitting next to the president is New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who in 2019 was able to pass a sweeping nationwide ban on most semi-automatic weapons after the deadly terrorist attacks on 2 mosques in Christchurch that left 51 people dead, an attack that inspired American mass shooters like the one in Buffalo. But New Zealand, they acted, because that is how a rational country responds to an horrific attack. Joining me now is Mara Gay, member of the New York Times editorial board and an MSNBC contributor, and Tim Wise, anti-racism educator and author of Dispatches from the Race War. Thank you all for being here. And Mara, you know, there is some rational action that is happening. You had Vice President Harris call for an assault weapons ban. Let's play that.
We are not sitting around waiting to figure out what the solution looks like. You know, we're not looking for a vaccine. We know what works on this. It includes, let's have an assault weapons ban. An assault weapon is a weapon of war with no place in a civil society.
And Amara, even Walmart has acted on gun reform. You know, they used to sell AR-15s at Walmart. You used to be able to walk into a Walmart and just buy one. But in 2015, Walmart stopped selling them, and they've stopped selling bump stock, which you also could buy at Walmart because it's a rifle, which seems bananas, but you could, and they now won't do it. That all is rational, but nothing's going to happen, right? Because we're not in a rational system.
Well, I think a lot of us are living in a rational world, and that's why we're so deeply disturbed by what's happening in this country. The problem is that Congress is not rational and functional, and in particular, the Senate is deadlocked for the reason that we have a minoritarian government at the moment. And so this is really all about what the Senate can do, and it's also about whether we can marshal, and we meaning everybody from Walmart to responsible gun owners to people who never want to see or come into contact with a gun in their entire lives, whether we can marshal the political capital and the cultural capital to continue to keep up pressure on lawmakers and on Congress to actually move something and make it happen. Because what's happening is that Republicans in the Senate are essentially counting on Democrats' inability or disinterest in forcing their hand. And I think they're hoping that the American people will just move on. And of course, we can't just move on because people are being killed in the streets, children, adults, lives being lost every day to gun violence. So increasingly Americans are, every American is increasingly invested in this issue. And so it shouldn't be this way. But the question is, how do we get the political capital to force their hand and to end the filibuster so that we can see action?
Right. I mean, look, Canada is very culturally not that dissimilar from the United States. It's right next to us. And they're able to just make this decision. They have the prime minister tweeting about the changes they're going to make, which makes sense, right? There are countries like Switzerland that have lots of gun ownership, but they haven't had rational gun laws. And here we know what we're looking at. If you go and you just look at who the mass shooters are, they're mostly male. 60 to 61 of the active shooters in 2021 are male. They're male between 25 and 34. If you go through the mass shootings in schools, it's even more specific. These are people who are basically just out of the age or still in the age where they themselves were doing the high school mass shooter drills because they're 17, 18, even 15 years old. They're somewhat fresh out of high school themselves. So they know where the kids are going to hide. They know what the kids are going to do because they did the drills too. They're around the same age. They're a majority, white males between a certain age. Like the profile is there. There's online profiles of the things they say, the threats they make. Like we know what we're dealing with, but we won't do anything.
Right. Well, look, first off, before I get into the analytical piece of this, let me just say, our youngest daughter graduated high school this week. And it is not lost on me that in, 8 years, there are going to be 19 families in Uvalde who should be celebrating the same way that we were, who we're not going to get to. And the reason they're not going to get to is because this country loves its guns more than it loves its children. This country loves the ability of an 18-year-old, the day they turn 18, to go buy a weapon of war, then they appreciate the right to continue to become 11 or 12 or 13 or 18. So let's be very clear. The difference between Canada and the United States, Australia and the United States, New Zealand and the United States, every industrialized nation in the world versus us is that we fetishize weapons. And let's be very clear. The historical precedent for that, the reason that we are so obsessed with guns and personal gun ownership going back to the Second Amendment is because the founders were so afraid that black people were going to rebel against enslavement, that indigenous people were going to rebel against being pushed off their land and killed and removed, that we wanted to make sure white men could have all the guns that they could possibly possess in order to put down the rebellions of the dangerous racial other. And so the irony is that we now have an incredibly dangerous country for everybody's babies, white babies, black babies, brown babies, everybody's babies, because white men a couple hundred years ago decided we needed to have all the weapons that we could possibly have and enshrine that in the Constitution to defend against those people. And the irony is that now white folks, white children, white families just as in danger. We buy all these weapons. In the wake of Obama's election, there was a big upsurge in weapons because folks were, black dude's the president and they're going to come take our guns. After Ferguson, when Mike Brown was killed, the Ferguson uprising, everyone said we got to go get all these guns. And the irony is that increase in gun ownership did not lead to self-defensive use of weapons to prevent, burglaries or whatever. It led to an increase in suicide, an increase in homicide. We are a less safe nation for everybody's babies because of this obsession. And this obsession goes back hundreds of years. So we need to understand the connection between past and present and realize that we are a sick and broken culture. We are not the greatest nation on earth any longer. If we ever were, we are a nation committed to an ideology of death. And if we want to stop that and save our children, we are going to make a change. And I mean, children, students should be walking out of school in the fall, refuse to go to class until your parents and your grandparents do something to protect you. Your parents do not love you enough. Your leaders do not love you enough, and you shouldn't go to class one day until they decide to do something different. A general strike among young people is what is going to end this thing, and it may be the only thing that does that.
This weekend, the New York Times put together an interactive timeline of what happened 7 days ago at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde,
Here we go.
Texas. It lays out in black and white what happened in the 78 minutes between 11:33 a.m.
78 minutes
when the
now.
killer entered the school and 12:51 p.m. when the school was secure.
I can't keep up.
The Times used video evidence, statements, and accounts of 911 calls to piece together that excruciating hour and 18 minutes. At 11:33 a.m., the government enters the school and moves toward two adjoining classrooms, 111 and 112, where teachers Eva Mireles and Irma Garcia were showing the fourth graders a movie. 2 minutes later, 3 Uvalde police officers enter the school, joined later by 4 more officers. At 11:43 a.m., 10 minutes after the shooter entered, the school posts on Facebook that it is under lockdown and then emails parents. 11 minutes later, parents begin to gather at the school. At 12:03, 30 minutes since the gunman entered the school, there are now as many as 19 police officers inside. A student in room 112 calls 911 pleading for help. More calls would come from the adjoining classroom, room 111. It's in those 2 classrooms where the 19 students and 2 teachers would die, with many more injured and traumatized. At 12:06, some students in a different classroom escaped through a window. At this point, it's been 33 minutes since the shooter has entered Robb Elementary. At 12:10, the first student from room 112 calls 911 and tells dispatch that multiple people are dead. That student calls again 3 minutes later. At this point, it's been 40 minutes since the gunman entered the school. The student calls again at 12:16 and tells dispatch that 8 or 9 students are still alive. Remember, 19 officers are present in the building. At 12:21, police hear the gunman fire again. They move down the hallway. By 12:35, police have been on the scene for an hour. Frantic parents are waiting outside, having increasingly tense interactions with police. At 12:50, 77 minutes after the crisis began, specially trained Border Patrol officers enter the classroom and fire 27 times, killing the gunman. Minutes later, children are escorted out, and frantic parents try to rush to their aid.
Cracked, uneven concrete.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
Minutes to clear the scene is, to this day, unclear. Grieving parents are devastated, and the larger community angered by the inaction, and they're left demanding answers. With me now, Mike Baker, national correspondent for the New York Times, and Donnell Harvin, senior policy researcher for the RAND Corporation, former chief of Homeland Security and Intelligence for Washington, D.C., and a former first responder to the Sandy Hook shooting and 9/11 attacks. Thank you all for being here. I want to go to you first, Mike. The New York Times, this was not your piece, but it was excellent. It was riveting to watch. But you reported on something else that I think is also relevant. Because if you go through that timeline, one would think that the police officers involved had no training in this area. But you reported something different, that they did do active shooter training. Tell us about that.
That's right. They started their active shooter training about 2 years ago. They did it as recently, again, as 2 months ago. And this wasn't just, theoretical training inside of a classroom, but in-person training in hallways where they would role play scenarios of what an active shooter would be like and how they would respond to it. It brought together multiple agencies from around the area so they could figure out how they could work together. And in the classroom, they were learning how to respond quickly, and that the emphasis, the priority was get in there quickly, confront the gunman, stop the killing. That's the priority.
But Donnell Harvin, you know from having done this work, training to run in and pretend to confront somebody that's got an AR-15, which is basically an M16, but not automatic, right? It's similar to what they use in war. It's different to train to run in and confront a pretend shooter and a real shooter.
Exactly.
And most police don't actually do that on a regular basis. Most of their job does not require them to run to armed fire, right? So the training doesn't necessarily do any good.
That's correct. And last week when you had me on, I said I'd like to defer and give some deference to law enforcement, but it's been a week. And I actually have a question.
Where are the letters of resignation at this point? We've had an entire week. We've seen all that we need to see. I'm happy that the DOJ is going to come in and do an investigation, but where's the accountability? We sat here and watched a police lieutenant last week say that his officers didn't engage because they were scared to get shot. Are you serious?
Exactly what I said.
You're scared.
Thank you.
But what about those people's children?
There are days in Washington that are triumphant, tragic, frustrating, and ridiculous. But some days, like today, are simply iconic. With Korean pop megastars BTS joining the White House daily press briefing to make remarks with the help of a translator
Said it.
about Asian inclusion.
Afraid to go in the room.
We were devastated by the recent surge of hate crimes. Shika said it's not wrong to be different. The equality begins when we open up and embrace all of our differences. Everyone has their own history. We hope today is one step forward to respecting and understanding each and every one as a valuable person.
Since their debut in 2013, BTS has become a global pop sensation, an American phenomenon. Their fan base, known as the BTS Army, is a broad coalition that also operates as a force for political activism, reportedly raising $1 million for Black Lives Matter in less than a day. So it comes as no surprise that the K-wave swept the White House today to address anti-Asian hate on the last day of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, a month that came with more tragedy than celebration. When a man motivated by political hatred opened fire on a Taiwanese congregation in California, where people worship, killing one and injuring 5. When 3 Korean women were shot at a Dallas hair salon, part of a pattern of shootings at Asian businesses in the area. A disturbing echo of the Atlanta spa massacres, where Asian women were targeted in their workplaces. All the while, attacks on Asian American civilians continue. It is a difficult time right now, a tragic time. This week, America will bury 19 children from one school after laying to rest those killed in the racist attack in Buffalo. As Americans mourn and search for answers, Asian Americans will continue to fight to live authentically and freely long after Heritage Month is over, as will Black people and LGBTQ people and women and Indigenous people and children who simply want to feel safe at school. So on the last day of a chaotic, devastating month, let's tap into that K-pop stan playbook. Let's make gun reform and voting American phenomena too.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. That's the readout. MSNBC. To recap what was said in this 18-minute commentary. Is somebody going to be responsible? As I said, besides the shooter. We know that you don't have control over what people are going to do, how they think. But there has to be some type of protocol. It's a school. For some of you are, still in the back room, chewing on candy in La La Land. There has to be security in a school. It's common sense. Anything can happen. We have to have adequate law enforcement that are trained to do their job. And as they say, role playing is not the same as actually going into a room. I get that. But that's the job you signed up for. I didn't sign up for that job. That's your job. And people are paying for you to be in that job. That's what the taxpayers' money is for. Monies is for you to go and assess the situation, any given situation. There was some windows somewhere. In this commentary, you can go to my post to see one of the windows in one of the rooms is how children were able to get out of the school room. Broke out the windows. I don't know if law enforcement broke out the windows or the children broke out the windows, but in an adjoining room, that is how some of the children got out of a room. So then you ask that question. Well, how many were able to get out of the room? See, it's 1,000 questions. That's all this is a revolving door, this story. But somebody has to stand account for what happened. At first, I didn't want to say anything ill towards law enforcement until I got the full story of what actually happened. But now here it is, a week later. I don't think I know any more than I knew then. Children calling, 19 or so officers in the building. Hell, how do I know it wasn't more than that? Why didn't you take a door ram and ram the door? You know there was going to be chances that you would get shot because the man had a gun. He had a heavy artillery. Your state let him buy it. You let an 18-year-old go buy a fucking AR-15 and you're scared to go in the room. Come again? Well, those kids were scared. Those teachers were scared. The other children and teachers in the other parts of the building, they don't even know what the hell's going on. They just hear gunfire. They don't know if the person's coming in their room, what? They don't know. They don't know. That's your job. This sounds ridiculous to be. Now, I've played several commentaries, and each one has a different amount of time that went by. 75 minutes, 77 minutes, 78 minutes. First, it started out with an hour, if you remember correctly. Oh, only 1 hour went by. Oh, only an hour? Do you know what you can do in an hour? You can take a cat nap. You can exercise. You can run down to the Piggly Wiggly and get you a 7-Up and Hostess cake. For an hour. Hour and 17 minutes, 18 minutes. You can do a lot of things in an hour. Okay? That's too many people in the building. And people dead, people dying, and people afraid to die. Because they don't know what the hell's going on. Listening over here on this wing versus the people in the room with the shooter, not knowing, is he going to shoot me if he thinks I'm alive? And as I said, when I first brought you this information, I didn't even think that possibly there were people in the room alive. And we now have information that law enforcement thought the same. So when he first went in shooting, they just assumed that once it stopped, they were dead. That's a pretty cold thing to say. But I could say, hell, I thought the same. Because I was only going by what information they gave us. So you're lollygagging around in the hallway, playing hopscotch or talking on your phones. I don't know what the hell you all were doing. And you don't hear gunfire, so you assume there's no threat. He's just in there, what? Painting his toenails? What the hell are you talking about? What the hell you thought he was doing in there? Oh, well, I didn't hear any more shooting, so I just figured everybody was dead, and we're just going to, oh, where's the key to the room? And if you really listen at this, when you repeat it back, that's when you realize how jacked up the situation is. Like what I'm doing right now. I'm role playing. I'm role playing what I'm doing. You were afraid to go in. It is time that the chief of police admits your officers were afraid to go in. The two who were brave to go in, unfortunately, got wounded. And that's when you all called in backup. But after that, you're still talking about an hour of dilly-dallying around and looking for keys. Hell, where was the janitor? In the bathroom smoking a joint? What? I don't know. Hell, maybe he was with the police officer somewhere. Maybe the hell they were somewhere getting high together because nobody was working security. Y'all talking about y'all looking for the janitor. Then you're saying you were helping get some teachers and students out of some other classrooms, which I understand that. But while you're helping get the other children and teachers out of the other parts of the building, these other people are scared shitless in this room with this fucking mad person. And he didn't kill everybody in the rooms. We now know this now because children were calling 911. The cat is out of the bag. We now know there were alive persons in the room. You're welcome, dear. They were scared. I brought you commentary just now. Go back and watch this replay. It's admitted in the last commentary. The officers were scared to go in the room after the two went and engaged with the gunman, I believe, in the hallway. So nobody wanted to assess the room out of fear. It is out now. You have difference of opinions about what happened with the teacher. I'm going to stay on the teacher business because this is the information you bring into the public. You can't get mad at the queen or somebody else for questioning what the fuck happened at the school when you're the one delivering the information. How about this? How about the teacher never said nothing about going out of the damn door? Would that make some of you feel better? She didn't say nothing. It was going to come out because they're going to look at the cameras. So it was going to come out that you exited the building at some point. You re-entered the building at some point. That was going to come out. Just like surveillance of the shooter going towards the building, entering the building. You want people to look at him enter the building and not ask how the hell he got in the building? We have a right to ask because this is the information that you're bringing to us. But you've been giving different versions about the door, open, propped, whatever. And as I said, I know they weren't expecting this to happen. That's the reason why she propped the damn door open. Because she wasn't thinking. I'm just going to run out here to my car, get whatever, come back in. Whatever exchange went on after going back in the building to get her phone, come back, lock the door, thought it was locked. I don't know what the hell happened. And I don't think you're going to get to the truth of what happened. Because now she has a lawyer and we're still bickering back and forth about a fucking door. You all were lax in Texas. You took for granted that they were small children and they weren't going to get crunk and bring guns to school and have any altercations with the staff and the teachers. That's what you thought. And I'm going to tell you how I know. When you go back in the YouTube queue and look at the videos that have been posted, and they're showing you other schools that were open the day after in America, you see a police officer standing outside of a school with the doors open, children going into school, a teacher standing on this side, he's standing on this side, and you ain't checked one fucking backpack. You ain't checked one backpack to see if a kid had a gun in a fucking backpack. And the cameras are rolling. And you want me to think that there's appropriate protocol for school safety in America when the next day you have a news agent filming doors of a school in somewhere in America. They're both open, the doors. And the teacher holding one door and the cop is standing on the other one and the children are just going in the damn door and ain't nobody checking a fucking bag. And that's live on TV. So I'm going to ask you again. Why can't I ask about the fucking door propped open? I sure can. Because that's the information you gave us. And now you all are bickering about a fucking door. And she has a lawyer now. So that means the teacher is alive. Not dead. There has to be gun control. There has to be laws passed. I can't think for you. You can't think for me. I can't say who's going to go out here and hurt somebody, shoot somebody. People are killed every day when it's not school shootings. People plot people's death. People hire people to kill people. People pop off, get mad, get angry, argue, fight, fuss, kill, shoot, stab over a beer. Who ate the last Polish sausage? Who messing with who don't want them, who don't love them no more. People kill for various reasons. People shoot people. But the school should be a safe zone for all children and staff. And if your child can't be safe in school, then where the hell can he be safe? Did you know that some children are going to school so they can be safe from their fucking parents at home because they got mangy ass parents at home? They got jacked up neighborhoods that they live in. Did that occur to any of you? That the school is a safe place for some children who, hey, don't get a good meal at home. Got a mangy ass mom and daddy, caretaker, foster parent, adoptive parents. They can't wait to go to school. So they ain't got to be at home with that foolishness. It's a safe haven for some. But on this day, it was not. So we can ask any damn question we want to ask about the Uvalde massacre. Who was on first? Who was on second? Who showed up to work? Who left the post? Who called in sick? Who was goofing off? Who was laughing, giggling, texting on TikTok? Hell yeah, I can ask. Because somebody had to bury 2 babies today. So when you sit up here and say what the fuck I can ask and not ask, and the public can't ask, you gonna say that to them people burying their children. Because that's what's wrong with our government and our government officials. You all are lax too. You have gotten comfortable being a head knocker. Because you think, oh, that ain't going to happen to me. I live too good for that. I'm in a good place. I'm in a high income bracket. I don't live in a neighborhood where they carry guns and shoot and, throw up gang signs. I'm Gucci. That ain't going to happen to me. That ain't going to happen to mine. My babies go to private school. You got to get through a gate. You got to clock in. You got to sign in. You got to put a key pass in. That ain't going to happen to mine. I make good money. I'm a high-class Republican. I live good. And what's going on in America don't concern me, even though you voted for me. But it's not my problem. And that's why they ain't voting on the gun control, because they don't think they're going to be in that situation. They don't think their little puppies are ever going to get shot up at school, robbed at the Piggly Wiggly, the 7-Eleven, the Starbucks. Nobody's going to walk into a major university and gun down their kid. My baby goes to a private school. That would never happen. The doors are always locked. We have security. Don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever think something bad won't happen to you or your child, your family member. Because money, status ain't got nothing on the gunman. He don't care nothing about you being a Republican. He don't care nothing about no private school. He don't care nothing about you driving a BMW. He don't care nothing about you living in a fancy house. You, your family, friend, foe, kids in the damn way, he gonna knock them off. And that's what happened in Uvalde, Parkland, Sandy Hook, Buffalo, subway shooting in Washington, D.C., and so on and so forth. Shooter don't care nothing about what you got going on. Shooter don't care nothing about your pocketbook, because the shooter's empty, okay? And he's giving up on life. And he's willing to take you, your kid, whomever, down with him. And this is what's wrong with our politicians. Some of them. They've gotten too big for their britches. And they can no longer relate, or they never could relate. They're just filling their pockets with money, getting a nice salary to sit on their ass and do absolutely nothing. Shuffle paper around and make guest appearances on TV shows, news shows. Make stupid tweets about absolutely nothing. They don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about the community. They're heartless. They're following in behind other people, what they're doing. They're following in behind what their party is doing. May not even agree with what their party is doing, but hey, I'm gonna vote with them anyway because that's my party. You need to be a leader, not a follower. I don't give a damn if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. You don't have to vote the way your party votes. You don't agree with something, just say, I bow out. I can't vote on that. I don't agree with that. Who cares about somebody arguing with you? Because as we say in the street, what you eat don't make me fat. What you eat don't make me fat. So I go dance by my own music, beat to my own drum. And that's what's going on. Political agendas. People sitting up, highfalutin, that forgot about being a human being. You, my dear, have become a machine. So you are no different than the perpetrator. Because you have lost touch with reality, sitting high up on your horse and acting like your you-know-what don't stink. Well, you might need to come on down, because you do not know the day when you will be in the same situation as those children and those teachers were in Uvalde. And it's sad that you have to put the shoe on to understand. And that is what's wrong with the world today. There's no empathy. You see, a lot of you just thinking, well, it was a messed up kid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, shut up some kids, big deal. Some of you are walking around in fancy suits, fancy shoes, and you have the mindset of Mr. Ramos. You just ain't pulled the trigger yet. You're empty too. You have no empathy. You have a great life, great job, great career, money in the bank. You live well, but you're empty. And you're not fighting the cause to help us civilians out here have a better life. I remember something a black woman said a few years ago. When it was, I believe, it was vote time. Can't remember. Trump was running for office or something. Obama, whatever it was. This black lady said in the Amvet store. She said, I don't care about Trump got elected in or not. That's what she said now. Because I'm going to eat regardless. But some of you might be asking, why are you bringing it up? It's to show you that a lot of us don't dance by politics. That no matter who's in office, whether I agree with them getting in there or not, I'm going to live anyway. I'm going to survive anyway. And if you have ever lived a life where you have had to hustle to survive, you don't give a damn about who's the president, the governor, the chief of police, who's on city council. You don't care. You are doing whatever you have to do to stay afloat. And that is what many civilians are doing today in America. They are hustling to survive by all means necessary. So it doesn't matter who's in the White House, who's the governor, the senator, the mayor, what political party is running the state. We ain't got that kind of time to be worried about who's a Republican or a fucking Democrat. We trying to eat. And that's what's wrong with this country. Your priorities are jacked up and you're focusing on the wrong damn thing. That's the reason why that little boy went in there, shot his grandmama, shot them damn children and them teachers. Because he could. And there was a loophole. He bought a gun. 9 times out of 10, he's had issues and problems and nobody paid attention and sat around and cared long enough to see what the hell was wrong with him. He walked into an open door of a school that should have had security and the door should have been locked. And there were people there on the scene who were afraid to go in and take him down. That's what happened in Uvalde. Loopholes. I want to thank you for joining me. God bless all of you. Have a safe week. If you want to donate to the channel, $Big Angie129 Cash App. Thank you for following the content. Thank you for liking, sharing. Please pass this video to other platforms. God bless all of you. Prayers to Uvalde, the city. Prayers to the children who survived, the teachers that survived. Prayers that they will be able to maintain and find their way to go back to school in the fall, if indeed they have school. Prayers for those who lost the children, burying the children. The worst thing you can ever do is bury a child. And prayers for this country, that we will learn how to handle our differences without resorting to violence. In prayers that the state of Texas will reevaluate their gun laws. In prayers that our Senate will get off their happy asses and say, enough is enough. We will not have any more heavy artillery sold in any store in the United States. And we will go stricter on our guidelines on how to get a weapon. To me, 21 means nothing. That has nothing to do with the mindset. Licensed carrier, it means nothing if your mindset is bad. And that's the point of the story. License or not, how are you going to know who's going to pop off? But you still need to have bylaws and guidelines, irregardless of the mindset. The rest will lean on prayer. That God will show this person this is not the way to handle your issues. You cannot go out here and kill civilians because you're unhappy. You didn't get the hand dealt to you that you felt you deserved. People aren't treating you right. Adequate mental care, adequate ways talking to people, dealing with people, showing a little kindness in the world can go a long way. We have to start somewhere. And first is with the United States government to change the bylaws on how to access a gun, period, and banish all heavy artillery to regular civilians. You don't need an M16 or AR-15 or a Pookie 9, this, that. I don't give a damn. We don't need it. Thank you for joining us. Everyday Shenanigans.